Assalamu alaikum. This is Ms. Maimi from the Arab International Academy, and today I'm going to explain the main verb tenses in English grammar that are the past, present, and future. As we all know, the verb tenses are very important for speaking English correctly. The verb tenses are changes or additions to verbs in order to show when the action took place, whether it's in the past, present, or future. The verb tenses show when an action took place as well as how long it occurred. And as I mentioned, the main verb tenses are the past, present, and the future. For the simple present tense, using the action verb or the main verb. The simple present tense is used to talk about a habitual action or usual activity. For example, Anna takes a shower every day. Anna is the subject, takes is the verb, and the word every day expresses the present time and it shows when the action took place. So Anna every day does this action, which is taking a shower. Another example, I usually read the newspaper in the morning. I is the subject and read is the verb. The action, which is reading, is usually done by me in the morning. So this is a usual activity that's done by me in the morning. The simple present tense also expresses general statements of fact or truths. For example, babies cry. Babies is the subject and cry is the verb. We used the simple present tense in this statement because this statement is true. We all agree that babies cry. For the second example, the sun rises in the east. Sun is the subject and rises is the verb. This is a true sentence or statement. The sun rises in the east and not in the west. Forms of the simple present tense. I'll start talking about the statements, how to make an affirmative or a positive statement using the simple present tense. So in order to make an affirmative sentence or a positive statement, we use the following formula. Subject plus verb plus the object. If the subject is he, she, or it, we have to add to the verb s or es. Then we add or copy the object as it is if it is found in the sentence. For example, my mother eats breakfast at 7 every day. Mother is the subject and it refers to the pronoun which is she. The verb is eats. And in this case, we added s to the verb eat since the subject is mother. Then we added the rest of the sentence. For the second example, Ali teaches English. Ali is the subject, teaches is the verb. We added es to the verb teach since the subject is Ali and Ali refers to the pronoun he. So for sure, if the subject is he, we have to add either s or es to the verb. Now, when do we have to add s or es? There is a specific rule that I'm going to explain later on. Now, if the subject is they, we, you, and I, what do I have to do? If the subject is they, we, you, or I, we have to copy the verb as it is in its base form. So in this case, we do not add S or ES. So the positive statement or the positive sentence will be subject plus base form of the verb plus object if any. For example, they wash their clothes once a week. They is the subject, wash is the verb. In this case, we did not add S or ES to the verb wash since the subject is they. For the second example, I watch TV in the morning. I is the subject and watch is the verb. And same as for this example, since the subject is I, no need to add S or ES to the verb. In this case, the verb should be in its base form. To make a negative sentence, we use the following formula. If the subject is he, she, or it, we add to the sentence does not plus base form of the verb plus the object if any. For example, he does not like tea. He is the subject, does not shows the negative form of the sentence plus the base form of the verb, which is like, and the rest of the sentence. So when we write a negative sentence using the simple present tense, no need to add S or ES to the verb. So we just add does not plus the base form of the verb if the subject is he, she, or it. For the second example, a butterfly doesn't live long. A butterfly is it. Then we added does not to the sentence. Then the base form of the verb, which is live, and the rest of the sentence. In this way, we wrote a negative sentence using the subject he, she, or it. Now, if the subject is they, we, you, or I, we have to add to the negative sentence do not plus base form of the verb plus the object if any. Now, if you write the word do not in this way or in its contraction way, both are correct. For example, I do not know Samia. I is the subject. I added next to the subject do not, since the subject is I and I'm writing a negative sentence. Then we added the base form of the verb, which is no, and the rest of the sentence. For the second example, Karen and Danny do not speak French. Karen and Danny refer to the pronoun they. We added do not to the negative sentence and we used do because the subject is they, Karen and Danny. Then we added the verb, which is speak, in its base form. Now to write a question, or in order to ask a question, we use the following formula in the simple present tense. We start the question with does or do. When do we use does and when do we use do? If the subject is he, she, or it, we have to use does plus the base form of the verb plus the object of any. So we start the question with does, then the subject, then the verb. For example, does she work in a hospital? We started the question with does, followed by the subject, which is she, followed by the base form of the verb, which is work. For the second example, does Ghina play football every day? Does we start with the sentence with does, followed by the subject, which is غنى. غنى refers to the pronoun she. Then the base form of the verb, no need to add s or es to the verb, since we have does. Then the rest of the sentence. Now, in order to use do, the subject should be either they, we, you, or I. So, in order to start a question with do, the subject should be they, we, you, or I, followed by the base form of the verb plus the object, if any. For example, do you walk to work every day? We started the question by do, followed by the subject, which is you, then the base form of the verb, which is walk. For the second example, do they go to school on Saturdays? We started the question in this example by do, then the subject, which is they, followed by the base form of the verb, which is go, and the rest of the sentence. So, in the simple present tense, if we want to ask a question, we have to start the sentence by does or do. And it depends to the subject that we are talking about. For the simple present tense, now when do we use or when do we add s or es to the verb? If the verb ends by sh, ch, x, z, or double s, we add to the verb es. Here we have an example. Miss. This verb ends with double s. So when the verb ends with double s, we add es to the verb. For the second example, we have the word catch. It ends with ch. We also add es when the verb ends with ch. Same as for the third example, we have the verb fix. It ends with x, so we added es to the verb fix and it becomes fixes. Now, when do we use or when do we add es also? When the verb ends with a consonant plus y. Consonant means any letter other than the vowel letters. We change, in this case, the y to I, and then we add es. For example, here we have try, the verb try. It ends with a consonant, which is the letter R, then ends by a y. So in order to change it to a simple present tense, we add es, but we have to change the y to I. So we changed the y to I, and then we added es. Same as for the second example. Here we have carry. It ends by a consonant, which is R, and a y. In this case, we crossed the y, we changed it to I, and then we added es. But with most verbs, we add s. Like live, it becomes lives. Stay, it becomes stays. For the simple present tense, using the verb to be and not the action verb or the main verb. The verb to be is used as an auxiliary verb. It links the subject with the object. It can also be used as a main verb. It depends to the case. Now for this statement, in order to make an affirmative sentence or a positive sentence using the verb to be in the simple present tense, The statement will be subject plus the verb to be plus the object. Now, if the subject is he, she, or it, we add is plus the object. For example, my mother is at home. Mother is the subject and it refers to the pronoun she. We added is since we have the subject she and then the object. Now, if the subject is they, we, or you, we add are and not is plus the object. So we can say they are in class or we are in class. So the subjects or the pronouns they, we, or you take are in a positive statement using the verb to be in the simple present tense. Now, if the subject is I do not use is and I do not use are. What I have to use is am. So the sentence or the positive sentence will be I am and then the object. So I am 13 years old. Now, in order to make a negative sentence using the verb to be in the simple present tense, if the subject is he, she, or it, we have to add to the verb to be, which is not, plus the object. So the sentence will be subject plus is not plus the object. For example, it is not cold today. This sentence is in the simple present tense. The subject is it, so it takes is. And in order to make it a negative sentence, we add not. Now, if the subject is they, we, or you, and I'm going to write a negative sentence, we have to add not to the verb to be. So the sentence will be, or the negative sentence will be, a subject plus are not plus the object. For example, Ali and Sandy are not busy today. Ali and Sandy refers to the pronoun they, and the pronoun or the subject they takes are in a negative or are not in a negative sentence. So the sentence will be Ali and Sandy are not busy today. For the last one, if the subject is I have to add am not plus object if we are talking about a negative sentence. So the sentence will be I am not 13 years old. Now, in order to make a question or to ask a question using the verb to be in a simple present tense, we use the following formulas. If the subject is he, she, or it, for sure we have to use is. But if I'm asking a question, the question should start with the verb to be, which is, followed by the subject, which is he, she, or it, followed by the object. So the question will be is plus subject plus object. For example, is Kate here now? This sentence is in the simple present tense, and it is a question. So we started the question with the verb to be is, and we used is since the subject is Kate, and Kate refers to the pronoun she. Now, in order to ask a question with a subject of they, we, or you, you have to use are. So to ask a question, we start the question by are, followed by the subject, like they, we, or you, plus the object. So the sentence will be, or the question will be, are plus subject plus object. Are you tired? This is an example. We started the question by are, since the subject is you, and then we added the object. Now for the simple past tense using the action verb or the main verb. The simple past tense is used when we describe something that's completed, it was done in the past, and finished. For example, Anna walked to school yesterday. Anna is the subject, walked is the verb in the past tense, and the word yesterday shows that the action, which is walking, happened in the past. For the second example, I came to class yesterday. I is the subject and came is the verb in the past tense, since the sentence is in the past time. For the third example, they ate breakfast yesterday morning. They is the subject and ate is the verb. The action happened in the past, yesterday morning. Forms of the simple past tense. In order to write or to make an affirmative sentence or a positive sentence, we use the following formula. What you have to know is that there are regular verbs and irregular verbs. At the end of this PowerPoint, we have the irregular verbs. We have to study them in order to know how we should change such verbs to the past tense. Now, if we have the subject he, she, it, they, we, you, or I, and we are writing a positive sentence in the simple past tense, we have to add ed to the verb, then we add the object. For example, she watched TV last night. She is the subject. Watched is the verb in the past tense. We added ed to the verb watch since it is a regular verb. Then we added the rest of the sentence. For the second example, we asked several questions to our teacher last week. We is the subject. Asked is the verb in the past tense. And we added ed to the verb ask since it is a regular one. Then we added the rest of the sentence. And this sentence happened in the past since we have a clue here, like last week. Now, what about if the verb is irregular? How it should be changed in the simple past tense? If the subject he, she, it, they, we, you, or I, the irregular verb should be changed. Then we add the object. For example, I felt excited yesterday. I is the subject and felt is an irregular verb. Felt comes from the word feel. Feel is the base form of the verb. Then, in order to change it to the past tense, we have to write it like felt, since it is an irregular verb. Now for the second example, my mom bought 3 shirts to my brother. My mom is the subject and it goes for the pronoun she. Then we added the irregular verb, which is bought in the past tense, and then the rest of the sentence. The word bought or the verb bought comes from the word buy. And since buy is an irregular verb, we did not add ed to the word by. We change it to bought. At the end of this session, I will show you the irregular verbs and how are they converted to the past tense. Now, in order to make a negative sentence, we use the following formula. If the subject is he, she, it, we, you, I, they, we add did not plus the base form of the verb plus the object, if any. For example, he did not walk to school yesterday. This action happened in the past because we have yesterday. And in order to make it a negative sentence, we have to add did not. Whether the subject is he, she, it, we, you, I, they, we add did not to all the subjects. So he did not walk to school yesterday. For the second example, we did not eat lunch yesterday. We is the subject. We added did not since we are writing a negative sentence followed by the base form of the verb. No need to add ed, no need to change it to another word if it's irregular. No need to add anything. In the negative sentence, the verb should be in its base form, like walk, eat, drink, for example, etc. Now, in order to ask questions in the simple past tense, we use the following formula. We start the question with did, then we followed the word did by the subject, whether it's he, she, it, we, you, or they, plus the base form of the verb, plus the object, if any. So the question will be, did she work yesterday? So the question started with did, then the subject, which is she, then the main verb in its base form. We do not add ed, we do not change it, we do not do anything. For the second example, did they visit their dad last night? We started the question with did, then we added the subject, which is they, then the verb in its base form, and the rest of the sentence. Both questions are happened in the past. The verbs happened in the past since we have yesterday and last night. Now for the simple past tense using the verb to be. As I said before, in order to write a positive sentence using the simple present tense, using the verb to be, we add am, is, or are. Now, in order to change this verb to be to the past tense, you have to follow the following formula. In order to make a positive sentence or an affirmative sentence, we use the following formula. Simple past tense using the verb to be. If the subject is he, she, it, or I, we add was, then the object. For example, Jasmine was at the library yesterday. Jasmine is the subject and it refers to the pronoun she. Then we added the verb to be in the past, which is was, and then the rest of the sentence. And this happened yesterday in the past. So instead of is, which is in the present tense, we change it to was in the past tense. If we have a subject like he, she, it, or I. Now for the subjects like they, we, or you, we add were instead of are, since we are using the past tense. Then the rest of the sentence. For example, we were in a visit last night. We is the subject. Where is the verb to be in the past tense? Then the object. This action happened in the past since we have last night. Now, in order to make a negative sentence using the verb to be in the simple past tense, we use the following formula. For the subject, he, she, it, or I, we have to add not to the verb to be was plus the object. So the negative sentence in the past tense will be subject plus wasn't plus object. In order to make a negative sentence in the simple past tense using the verb to be, we use the following formula. If the subject is he, she, it, or I, we add not to the verb to be, which is was, then we add the subject. So the negative sentence will be subject, he, she, it, or I, plus was not, plus the object. For example, he wasn't at home yesterday. He is the subject. Wasn't is the verb to be in the past tense showing the negative form. And then the rest of the sentence. This action happened yesterday and in the past. For the subjects like they, we, or you, we add not to the verb to be where plus the object. So the negative sentence in the simple past tense will be subject, they, we, you, plus were not, plus the object. For example, they weren't in office yesterday. They is the subject, weren't is the verb to be in the past tense showing a negative meaning, and then the object. Now, in order to ask questions in the simple past tense using the verb to be, we use the following formula. We start the question with was. If the subject is he, she, or it, then we add the object if any. So the example will be, was Kareem here last night? Was is the verb to be in the past tense, followed by the subject, which is Kareem, and Kareem shows the or refers to the pronoun he. Then the object, and this action happened in the past last night. In order to write a question using subjects like they, we, or you, we start the question with where, followed by the subject and then the object. For example, were Jad and Hisham tired? We used were since the subject is Jad and Hisham, and these two refer to the pronoun which is they, and they takes were and not was. Now for the simple future tense. The simple future tense is used to talk about things that haven't happened yet. It's used to predict a future event. So something that will happen in the future. For example, Yasmina will walk to school tomorrow. Yasmina is the subject, and in the future tense, we add will to the main verb, so it will become will, and the main verb like walk, then the object. So Yasmina will walk to school tomorrow, and the action, which is walking, shows that it will happen tomorrow, in the next day. For the second example, I will leave at 9 tomorrow morning. I is the subject, then we added will plus the verb, then the rest of the sentence, and leaving as an action will happen in the future at 9 tomorrow morning. For the third example, they will arrive on time soon. They is the subject, then we added after the subject will plus the base form of the verb, like will arrive, then the object on time soon. The word soon, same as tomorrow morning, same as tomorrow, shows or means that the action will happen in the future, and this happen or this action haven't happened before. Now, in order to write or to make an affirmative sentence or a positive sentence in the simple future tense, we use the following formula. If the subject is he, she, it, they, we, you, or I, we add will plus the base form of the verb plus the object, if any. For example, she will watch a movie tomorrow. She is the subject, then we added will plus the base form of the verb will watch a movie tomorrow, which is the object. For the second example, they will ask several questions to their teacher soon. They is the subject, then we added will plus the base form of the verb, like will ask, since we are talking about an action that will happen soon in the future. That's why we added will plus a base form of the verb and then the object. Now, to write a negative sentence, we use the following formula in the simple future tense. The subject is, if the subject is he, she, it, we, you, I, or they, we add not to the word will plus base form of the verb plus the object, if any. If you write will not or the contraction of it, which is won't, it's correct. Both ways are correct. So in order to write a negative sentence, we have to add not to will. For example, he will not walk to school in the upcoming day. He is the subject. Will, we added will since the action will not happen in the upcoming day, in the future. Then we added not since we are writing a negative sentence. Then the base form of the verb, which is walk, and then the object. The upcoming day is same as tomorrow, shows an action that will happen in the future or will not happen in the future. For the second example, my brother and I won't travel to Paris tomorrow. My brother and I is the subject and refers to pronoun, which is they. Then we added not to will, so it becomes won't or will not. Both are correct. Then we added the base form of the verb, which is travel, then the rest of the sentence. And this action will not happen in the future. In order to write or to ask a question, we use the following formula. We start the question with will, then any of these subjects, whether it's he, she, it, we, you, or they, plus the base form of the verb plus the object, if any. For example, will she meet her mom this week? We started the question with will, then the subject, which is she, then the base form of the verb, which is meet, and then the rest of the sentence. For the second example, will the researchers visit the library soon? We started the question with will, followed by the subject, which is researchers, and researchers refer to the pronoun they, since they are many, more than one researcher. Then we added the verb visit, the base form of the verb, and then the rest of the sentence. Both questions are in the future form. This should be in the future form. Now for the time expressions. In order to know whether the sentence or the action is in the present tense, you may have several clues or hints like today, this morning, this afternoon, tonight, this week, every morning, every night, often, usually, always, every day. For the past time expressions, we may have yesterday morning, yesterday night, last week, yesterday afternoon, yesterday. And for the future one, we may have soon, tomorrow, upcoming days, this week, today. If you can see, we have today in the future tense and today in the present tense. So in this case, you have to understand the meaning of the sentence. So the action may happen today, for example, at night. And when I was talking about when the action will happen, it was in the morning, for example. So I said, I will visit my mom today. So if I'm talking in the morning and I'm telling you that I will visit my mom today, this means that the action will happen today, but maybe at night. So this is the difference between the first one and the third one. Now for the irregular verbs, as I mentioned, we have regular verbs and irregular verbs. For the irregular verbs, in order to change them to the past tense, as I mentioned before, you have to change the whole word and not add ed. So you have to memorize and study these two slides. So, for example, the word become will be became in the past tense and not becomed. For example, come in the past tense, it will be came and not comed. For example, we have here go, base form of the verb, and if we want to change it to the past tense, it becomes went and not goed. So this is the difference between the regular verbs and the irregular verbs. For the regular verbs, we add ed. For the irregular verbs, we have to change the whole word, like these examples. For example, the word stand, it should be stood in the past tense.